All right, you got your list. You ready to go?
Ready? Okay.
Hello, and welcome back to the Ark of E podcast. My name is Noah.
And my name is Gavin.
And we are the Blanchard Brothers back with you for part 2 of our year in review. Here to talk about the year in TV, our favorite shows of 2024. Before we get into it, we're post-holidays here. Well, not both holidays, but we're in between Christmas and New Year's.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of debating whether we need to wait on movies or not, because most of the ones that I'm like, maybe I need to see this for my list, might not be able to see until the end of the month, is what it's looking like.
Yeah.
From what I see and how stuff's being released. I've caught pretty much everything I can and want to, but there's going to once again be those like inevitable stragglers. So we can decide this off mic, but if you want to record it soon, I've seen, I'm pretty comfortable with my list, I guess is what I'm saying.
I mean, I'm comfy
I
too.
don't know where you're at on movies, but
There's a couple that have come out in theaters. I'm like, oh man, but I'm like, you know what? I'm not gonna pay to rent it. I can tell from like the trailer, I'll like it, but I don't know if I'll like it as much as what I already seen.
okay.
And it's truncated by the fact that like I think I saw 4 movies in a theater this year.
Yeah.
Two of them after having a child. So like, I feel like getting one done after having a child was good. So two, I'm playing with house money. So, you know, end of the three. I forgot about one or two in the summer. I forgot.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Well,
So,
we'll save that for the movies episode. But
yeah.
anyways, I just wanted to say to you while we're in front of each other over Zoom, I'm down to record it whenever you want to, if we want to try and get it up before the end of the year or short or as like, very, very first thing,
Yeah. I mean,
early January.
if you're not doing anything New Year's Day, I don't have anything planned. Get on in the afternoon and just fire them off,
All right.
or New
Well,
Year's Day night, whatever.
we'll
Doesn't matter.
figure it out. Okay. So before we get into our individual top 10 list, any general thoughts on TV in the year 2024?
Um, I will say,
And we continue to call this TV, but streaming, whatever you want to,
yeah.
I don't know how many of these shows actually air on a traditional network at this point. Maybe we can chart that as we go.
Well, maybe
But
we just like it's like how do I put it? It's just we just say this is something you'll not see in a theater. Like they're not running this. You're not going to go sit in a movie theater to watch this. You know what I mean?
sure.
Like that's the
Yeah.
only thing. Because I mean the quality, like we've been talking about years and years and years, it's only getting better. And I feel like this year more than any, I've seen that like, oh, that's on Tubi. Oh, that's on Wagyu Beef Plus. Oh, that's on Para Universal. Oh, that's on uh Zoologist 101 for 199 a month. Like there's just so much.
Mm.
And I mean, I thought I did good. It blew behind me, but like I was at home for a month and I watched a good bit of TV because, you can pause it, you can get up, you can make a bottle, come back, play, feed the baby. It's so simple. I feel like I got a lot of TV watching done. But I think about like Becky, who just blows through shows like it's nothing. I'm like, oh, well, I did what she does normally in any given year. I did that this year, and that's just because I get to sit at home for a month and get to know my newborn. But that being said, a lot of great stuff and kind of on the fence of like maybe the year goes to TV more than it does movies. I don't know. Might have to talk about that when we get to the movie podcast. But so far, I've thoroughly enjoyed everything that I got to see. I took a time with some stuff,
Oh,
you know,
okay.
like you jumped out and we're done with a bunch of stuff, I'm sure, but it took me a minute to get to it, but I did. And I'm
Well,
sure missed some stuff too.
and I'm sure you watched some shows that I maybe have not even heard of. I'm excited for your list. I thought it was a weird year in terms, mainly I'm thinking of like release schedule. Like I felt like there were these up and down periods where I felt like there was nothing coming out, that I had any interest in for like months at a time. And then all of a sudden it would be like, okay, I got to follow like three or four shows all at once.
Hmm.
Uh, and yeah, the pacing of the year. It's also been a thing with movies this year where I was like, I was, dude, I was at the theater almost every weekend for like the first 8, 9 months of the year. And then the back half here, right until the holiday season, I was like, there's nothing for me. Like they just were not putting anything out. And then now all the awards movies that most of which I've seen, but the handful that I haven't gotten to, it's like, what, late January, February? Like, why
Right.
couldn't I have watched those like 2 months ago? What are we doing? Anyways,
I
okay.
mean, I guess that's what happens when
I'll,
studios don't want to play ball with SAG-AFTRA. So, I mean,
well, and so television was partly affected. Again, we're still
hmm.
seeing residual release stuff from COVID and the strikes, etc. So yeah, it just felt like there was you know, some weird balance issues. And the year in TV felt really long. Like when I'm thinking back to
Oh
some of
yeah,
this
yeah,
stuff
definitely.
in a way that maybe movies like stuck with me longer or in a different way. But yeah, so
Well, no, like that in general.
overall, there are some very high highs, but yeah, there was also months where I was like, oh, there's nothing really happening right now, so that's why like I rewatched all of Mad Men in the first part of the year. That's why I rewatched all of Twin Peaks: The Return in like November. Like there
You,
was huge swaths where I was just like, there's nothing going on that I
okay,
care
so
about.
my go-to, like everybody's asleep. I don't want to listen to a podcast. I just want something on in the background while I'm washing dishes, cleaning bottles. Step by Step on Max. Going back through all of it, dude.
I had no idea Step by Step
Dude,
was on Max. Okay.
dude, like the first two seasons, they should have just called the show Pussy Hound because the entire premise of every episode is Frank trying to sleep with his new wife, Carol. That's it. It's like any chance they get, all the sexual
Okay,
innuendos,
so
all that. It's like we get
that's
it.
making a lot of sense because I'm like, that seems like a plot line that I'm like, yeah, I definitely saw that episode. And you're like, no, that's every
Every
episode.
episode, there's a joke about them going to bed. There's a joke about them hooking up. And there's a joke about we barely know each other. We only dated for a week and now we're married. And it is neat to watch the growth and evolution of like the children from like, first to the third season. But the secret sauce in that is fucking Sasha Mitchell, dude. Like, I don't know what that guy did after that show. I know he did the Kickboxer 2, and I always thought until I understood what casting was what, I always thought he was the bad guy in Karate Kid 3, but it wasn't Sash Mitchell, it was obviously somebody else. But like he is the secret sauce in that show. That's why that show lasted the 5 seasons that it did. I mean, the second episode, they do a Urkel crossover because it was the other Miller Boyette show.
I just,
It's
yeah,
so yeah, it's crazy, dude.
I wonder what the watch rate on HBO is because I'm just like, it's not one that you hear nostalgia for
Mm.
a lot. So I'm curious how it does on there. But of course, we'll never know. They'll never show us those numbers. So you want to kick it off? You want to kick
Yeah.
it off?
Yeah, I'll do my number 10 favorite show of the calendar year 2024. It's a little Apple show called Masters of the Air.
Okay.
It is about the American pilots that came over to fight in the Battle of Britain, flying B-17 bombers um, across the channel into France, and it just kind of it picks real people and it just follows one group through from literally start to finish, whatever what happened to them. You get a little bit of the red tails and the with the all black unit that was there as well. They go from literally them starting out training, getting ready to go fight to like some of them getting shot down, some of them getting thrown into POW camps, all this crazy stuff. Just really well made, and it's one of those that I like. It started right as Mav was born, so sitting at home for a month, I got to catch up on it, and then of course as I go back to work, and then Becky goes back to work, I come home and like um, Chuck and Gail, or well, mainly Chuck, his Becky's dad. He's got it on while they're watching. Like his his Gigi is watching it, but Chuck's got it on in the background, just watching it again. He loves war stuff, so it's like I kind of bonded with him over that a little bit, but really well made show.
I mean,
Austin Butler's in it, but he's not the main.
it's dad TV,
It is
and
Dad TV.
you're
It
a
is,
dad
dude.
now.
Yeah.
And Evan and I were just talking on the phone about it the other day as well. He enjoyed it.
Well, okay. The main thing is the one radio operator dude that I love is the Dark. You know who I'm talking about? The Dark. Say nothing. The Dark.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's him. So like he was in that, but he was also in another show that didn't make my list, but I think people like called Manhunt, where he played John Wilkes Booth, and then he shows up and Say Nothing. So I don't know the gentleman's name, but he's had a hell of a year. Two Apple shows, and then bam, this thing's showing up on Hulu. Like I'm not surprised people don't. Again, it's not a household name. I don't know the actor's name, but I loved him in every performance that I saw him in. The three shows I watched with him. It's just Manhunt didn't make the list because it's John Wilkes Booth. It's based off of a podcast slash book, and it's a neat take on it. But I just didn't like the guy who played Lincoln, so I didn't feel like I needed to put it any higher than like 15 maybe. But yeah,
Ish.
Masters of the Air.
All right. And that's available on Apple TV.
It
That is
sure is.
that is a show starring
Yes,
two Academy Award nominees and
yes.
in the lineage of, or it's basically in the trilogy thus far of Band of Brothers in the Pacific. But I'm sure there's some people that still don't know that it even exists because it's on Apple, as I said.
Right, yeah.
Okay,
Hmm.
so uh,
But hey, Noah, you can go watch it now if you wanted to,
I sure can. I
because
sure
you're
can.
you're in the family.
In the family. Speaking of being in the family, let me see if I can get the voice. Hey, my number 10. I it's the fucking penguin. What am I gonna say? It's the fucking penguin.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
Mickey List.
yeah. It made my
All
list.
Oz Cobb, you know,
Yeah,
farting
yeah,
around Gotham. Have
yeah,
it. Yeah. Okay. Do we want to table it?
yeah. We could table it. I mean, it made it a little high on my list actually.
All
Uh,
right. All right.
yeah,
All right.
yeah.
Well,
All
whoa,
right, thanks,
whoa,
Ma. Thanks,
whoa,
Ma.
whoa,
You're
whoa,
great, Ma.
whoa. We'll leave it at that. Hey, hey, it is what it is. It is what it is. All right. Okay. Well, can we Uno flip reverse it, and I'll go ahead
Give
and
me your
give you
number
my
nine.
number 9.
Yeah, sure.
All right. Might have to table this shit too, but I mean, I'm gonna demand that we go ahead and talk about it if it is, in fact, higher on your list. My number 9 is a show we spent quite a bit of time with, uh, True Detective Night Country.
It's actually my number eight, so it's perfect. You just give me your eight and we keep rolling, baby.
Hell yeah. I mean, we covered it episode by episode. We had some great guests, including Mr. Evan Tuig, Mr. Baron
Yes.
Williams. I think Brendan might have hopped on there randomly, even though I don't think he was even watching the show. I'm sure, pretty sure he popped up at some point. Uh,
This one was the one I had to go, hey Becky, you know that True Detective
that
was
it was
this year,
this
right?
year.
She was like,
Exactly.
what?
And I'm
Because
like, it
yeah.
was right before, right?
Hmm.
It was literally, yeah.
We watched the literally, we watched the last episode. We went to our thing on President's Day. She got up and won an award in front of everybody, and then 3 days later had a baby. Like that's, and then we were off for a month. That shit was wild, dude. Like
It's
I had to
crazy.
remember, I was like, dude, that show started in January. We watched it every week, and then he was here. That was like our little, okay, this is our last little one we're gonna watch together before he gets here, and then all bets
Dude,
are
and
off.
I mean, I'll just echo pretty much what we said at the time, which was like coming back after a long hiatus, new creatives involved, and like you got to reinvigorate the franchise. You want to talk about absolutely fucking delivering. Like we were fully engaged week to week. We we thoroughly enjoyed how it wrapped up, and then boom, we know we're getting another season from her. So
Mhm.
I'm very excited. We still don't know if that is an extension of 4 or if she's gonna take it off and do, new setting, and new set of detectives, which is kind of what I'm hoping for. But if she
Oh
wants to
yeah.
continue to play around in that world, I wouldn't be mad at it either. So True Detective Night Country, yeah, held strong throughout the year. Yeah, my number 9 and Gavin's number 8. So
Let
you
me give
give
you
me your number 9, sir.
my number nine is a little show, another Apple show called Presumed Innocent.
Hell yeah. Not on my top 10, but
Hmm.
let me place it for you because it's not far off. Had a great Great time with this. Great, just trashy summer
Yes.
drama, dude.
Yes.
I need one of these in my TV diet. I could use like one or two a year. We usually only get like one good one. This was it for me though. My number 14.
Okay. Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah.
I,
Uh,
I
okay.
just it halfway through it, I'm like, wait a minute. These guys are brother-in-law.
So what
That was crazy.
okay. Before we got to talk about that, but what was your familiarity with the film?
Never, never.
Okay. So you had no relate you okay.
There's a movie?
Starring Harrison Ford and Bonnie Bedelia.
What?
You've never seen
Oh,
Presumed? Oh, okay.
no. Wait a minute. No.
So I'm
What?
going into this. Dude, Raul Julia
That's
is
right, dude. Holy
basically
shit. What?
he's
That's why I kept thinking like, why do I feel like I know this story from somewhere?
dude.
Okay.
So
Jeez.
without spoiling it, because again, this is another Apple TV Plus show starring multiple Oscar winners, which is an adaptation of a very, very successful thriller from the 90s starring Harrison Ford and Bonnie Bedelia. And
They did the same thing with Mosquito Coast then.
that's what I'm saying.
Jesus.
But without spoiling anything, you could still watch the movie and have a
Hmm.
completely different experience because they did flip the ending
Oh,
in a
okay.
different way. Well, excuse me, they didn't flip the ending. They fucked with the ending in a
The
different way
the
that
show did
kind
or the movie?
the show did.
Okay.
Yes. And I believe the movie might even be a derivation from
The
the
novel.
novel,
I
which I
think
think
yeah.
it's like a Scott Turow. He's kind of
Yeah.
like the just below Grisham, just below Clancy. I'm just saying, like
No, no, no.
in that
I'm
vein,
sorry.
I think. I don't know. I don't know my airport thrillers from that era. But anyways, you could go watch the movie still, and I think have a
Oh, I
really good
definitely
time with
will.
it. The show, though, Gyllenhaal, just I mean, we're in the bag for him. It was a pretty solid year. It was a solid year of like, I don't really know why you're doing what you're doing, like with
But
the
I like it.
Roadhouse remake
I love it.
and like taking on the presumed innocent role. But okay, man, I'm there with you. But the scene stealer, the like the reason to watch the show, one of the all-time Peter Skarsgård
Oh
performance,
my God,
Sarsgaard
dude.
performance.
Dude.
Excuse me. Just
He's
Tommy, is it Tommy
Malto.
Malto?
Malto. Yeah.
Just one of my favorite characters of the year. The
Yes.
performance is absolutely incredible. Every like layer that's kind of peeled about him when the show actually starts to spend a little time with him
It's
outside of the
so
courtroom,
it
I
is
was just like,
so my God, it was so good.
dude, I was so glued to it. But yes, that was the absolute highlight of that for me. And again, just a great, I mean, if I'm not mistaken, David E. Kelly, kind of like
Oh yeah.
part of the team that's done Big Little Lies and a lot of Sharp Objects, I think, part of that team as
Yeah.
well. I
Yeah.
could be wrong.
Well, no,
But
as soon as it said David E. Kelly, it's like, oh, we're gonna have an ER situation here. He's gonna have to go to a hospital. Somebody's going to a hospital.
yeah.
They're gonna
Um,
call an ambulance.
So I'm always down for one of those shows, and the Apple budget allows them to just like execute that type of thing. And again, we're not getting these like adult erotic thrillers in the theater anymore.
No.
And so if they're gonna do them at home, this is what I want. I want like a rock solid 8.5. I had a great time week to week. I waited because I don't think I
Hmm.
didn't have Apple until and I think I like paid to reactivate it to start watching that because I had heard so much about it and I was like, dude, I need a fun summer show and it totally delivered. So yeah,
Hmm.
Presumed Innocent season 1 because we are getting a season 2.
Ooh.
Yes.
So
Uh,
wait, does the novel or go further than this, or is there
so
like a?
no one, no, there is open speculation right now if season 2 is a direct follow-up, involves any of these characters or none of these characters. They might
Hmm.
just take the title and the conceit of like, hey, a lawyer who kind of has to. So and I'm also again not only does it have the erotic thriller thing going on, but it's also legal drama, which
Oh yeah, of course.
the other like dying genre that has slowly and steadily been making a comeback on stream. We talked about
The
what was it?
Burial.
The Burial last year.
Hmm.
Yeah. And a movie that I don't want to spoil that may or may not come up on somebody's list, on our movie list from a very well-known filmmaker that just dropped like a week ago that there was a lot of hubbub around. But it's coming back. It's coming back in a big bad way. It just needs to like get to the theater. We haven't quite done
Oh
that
yeah.
yet. Oh yeah, and there was a giant movie that, totally bombed that a lot of people hated that I guess was also kind of a courtroom drama earlier this year. But
What was that? I don't know.
I don't know, maybe we'll talk about it on the next episode or
Oh,
maybe
okay.
maybe we won't. But okay. Presumed Innocent was your number 9. My number 9
Yes.
was True Detective Night Country, which was your number 8. So now
You're number 8.
what? Trust me, when we get midway through, we'll recap this for you. I know all
Yeah.
of you are so invested in the actual ranking. Okay, my number 8. I don't. Again, another one I don't think we need to table, even if it is on your list. It's the Bear, part 3.
No, I did not. Didn't put on my list. Yeah. Sorry,
Fair,
sorry, Bear.
absolutely fair enough. I will say this: a show that even as you heard me, you know, vehemently defended against everybody because there was a lot of backlash this year. We had a whole episode where we talked about it.
Yeah.
Um, it is the one where I sat here debating where I was like, if I'm gonna drop anything off to kind of like lift up another show, I think by default it would be The Bear, which is weird to say because I even said at the time I was like, a slightly lesser than season of this show is still better than most shows on television. I still stand by that. But yeah, here, like removed from it a little bit further, I was kind of like, yeah, I enjoyed that season, but what I kind of remembered were the things that I didn't like about it as much.
Hmm.
The John Cena cameo, the Claire Bear, like the whole treatment of that character. Uh,
Hmm.
that's the stuff that kind of lingered in my mind, not the incredible opening episode and the great Tina episode and like, you know, so I don't know. Now I'm literally sitting here going like, shit, is it my number 8? I don't know. I don't know. But my instinct was that it needed to be in the top 10,
You
but it
keep it.
definitely
You keep
couldn't
it
be in the top 5.
solely for the Jamie Lee Curtis mom birth episode.
Ice
Keep it
Chips,
solely for that.
Ice Chips,
Ice chips. Yeah,
another
keep it
great
for that too.
episode.
Solely just for that.
I mean,
I just
there
I
was
knew it was going to
great.
be on your list, and I
Yeah,
had other things I wanted to mention. That I mean, I'm hoping maybe the fourth iteration wins me over, and I'm just like fucking best show ever.
I think, and again, I think when it, fingers crossed, essentially, like when it does come out and we're able to like see the full package, I think, yeah, 3 in a binge will go down like super smooth and there won't be all this discourse around it. Like you won't think twice, but who knows? Or maybe it will feel like, what were we doing there? Uh,
Mhm.
that was my number 8. Back to you for your number 7.
My number 7 is an Amazon television program called Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
Just outside my top 10 at the 12 spot.
All right.
We talked about this one a little bit. I
Yeah, we
think
talked
we
about when it happened. This is one that I streamed it all post baby. So it was like, I don't know. I remember the reading about it and basically when the it was like pitched, it was like, what's the point of doing this? And I don't know if it was Donald Glover's brother explaining it to him or him explaining to his brother. It's like just like a date movie. Like you go watch it with Brad Angelina, then you think like when you leave, oh, could we do that? It's like something to bond over. And it's not that like Bex and I did that, but it's almost like oh well, isn't this a neat show about these two people who are just kind of living together now, and now we're like fully living together and we have a baby. So this is what we would do if we didn't have a baby. And we
hmm
would move to New York and live in a brownstone that's like constructed out of two different ones together and all this and I don't know. It was just the idea that like you take that movie kind of and you're going to make a show loosely based off that, but it's your own. It's completely
It's
its own
basically
thing. It's perfect.
it's
I
his
just yeah.
sensibilities applied
Yeah.
to it, and I'm like, I kind of am down for the project of any genre that he wants to tap into and like or IP that he wants to take and be like, here's my Donald Glover spin on it. I'm I'm totally down. Uh
Yeah.
Again, another one we know we're getting a second season,
Hmm.
not involving them. They've said that up front. It's going to be two new agents. Now that doesn't mean that they can't pop up
Of course.
in an episode or two and we can still have fun with that. But I like the idea of they've established this world and the tone, which is
Hmm.
like pitch perfect.
Oh yeah.
Uh, Again, I will say it, and I guess I'll flag it here again, not a spoiler, but the only reason I dinged this show and I gave it like an 8.75 and kept it like slightly down, I maybe was a little harsh on it. Uh, there is a cat that is killed in this show, and that I understood thematically why the show did that and used it as motivation for a sequence that I ultimately did enjoy, but I didn't like that shit. So I dinged it. I'm sorry. It
Is
can't be
that
in the
why
top 10.
is that why
But
you
they killed Maya Erskine's cat. No, I'm sorry. And I know that sounds ridiculous. That shit pissed me off. It can't be in the top 10 because of that. Great show otherwise. But
is
I
that
think
why
that
you
happens
connected
in
with
the I think that happens in the penultimate episode if you want to avoid it. And for anybody who does have issues with stuff like that, there isn't a website called does the dog or does the cat die.com, and they've got all sorts of stuff you can look up about a movie before you watch it, which I don't do very often, but I do have to screen it every once in a while for some people. So, okay. Uh
well, answer my question. Is that why you connected with Tommy Molta a little bit when you were watching?
100%. Okay,
Dude,
we
when you
never
come home and he just has a cat, you're like, this makes this it tells me everything I need to know about this guy.
so
Lives alone with a cat.
this is
I
a sorry, this is a TV episode, but I'm going to bring it up anyways. Did we ever get to talk about Thanksgiving? And did you ever see Thanksgiving?
the movie?
Yes, the
Yeah,
Eli
yeah.
Roth. You finally
Yeah.
got to see it on
Yeah, I watched it
Netflix?
last year
Word.
or earlier this year, maybe. I can't remember.
We may have discussed it at the time, but the sequence where he kills Tim Dillon,
Hmm.
like beheads him, and he's about to leave the apartment, and the cat meows at him. And of course, they've already set up the cat. And anytime you show a cat in a horror movie, you naturally have that tension of just like, what the fuck? What are you gonna do here? What are you doing? Uh, and the cat meows at him, and then the killer comes over. There's like a jump cut. And the killer comes over and he's feeding him, like fills his bowl before he leaves. And I literally like almost stood up in the theater and applauded. And it's like the hardest I've laughed in a horror movie in a very long time. And I immediately was like, dude, kill all of these teenagers. I am 100% on your side. I don't even know who you are, but I was just like, dude, he's a good guy. Like at the end of the day, he's killing the bad guys. He's not trying to hurt this cat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on Mr. and Mrs. Smith? I'm sorry. I had
Yeah,
to get that
no.
off my chest. I've been
I
thinking about it all year. When I look back at my rating, I'm like, oh yeah, that's why it's not a 9 for me.
I do. Yeah, no, I mean, again, the world that was created and um, just, you can get in, you can do this line of work, you can do whatever, testing the bonds of a relationship. You're supposed to be married, but like also, you're this level of John and Jane. You could go to a higher level of John and Jane, or you could go to a lower level of John and Jane and just be dropping off stuff in the post office boxes, or you could actually go out and do missions and stuff. I don't know. I love the world building of that all. And I really, like you said, I hope that
And
the next one, we just have
they,
two new different agents and we just see them in the background here and there.
well, and again, a perfect structure for single episode cameos where you can get like giant names to come in and just like, hey, come play with us, come have fun.
Exactly.
Hey, John Turturro, hey, Ron Perlman, like just,
Hmm.
pop up. Uh, Parker Posey, who else do we have? Wagner Mora?
Yeah, the fact that he did that,
Yeah,
that was a delight for me. I love that dude. And like him showing up out of nowhere and having a blast with it. It's like this fucking guy. He got us with like breathing. or water, whatever he was talking about. He's like, when they're talking about it at the end, when they're just in bed talking about the crazy shit they just did on this mission, it's like, this motherfucker got us holding on every word, over breathing. What the fuck? Like, I love that shit, dude. It's so good.
That's the one where they send them out on the mission and it's like all very like we see bits and pieces of it, but at one point they're like led into a dark tunnel and like somebody gets beheaded and like
Like, yeah,
yes, okay.
it's like they're so in over
Crazy.
their head, but they still make it out alive, and then they're just like,
Great
"Oh, you guys made it. Okay."
great show.
Yeah.
Uh Super fun time. Can't wait for more of it in whatever capacity it returns in. All right, that was your number seven.
Yep.
Alrighty. My number seven. I don't know that I've ever made this sort of exception for one of our year-end list as far as TV goes, but I'm gonna put a show on the list that is not over yet. It's like the season's in progress. I actually don't know definitively how long it's gonna be, but my number seven is Dragon Ball Daima. Okay. Uh, in March of this year, we lost Akira Toriyama, like one of the most legendary anime creators of all time, who was basically my introduction to anime. He created Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball Z, etc. Uh, and went in just also ties in because he went in a way that personally absolutely terrifies me. He was 68, I believe, and just subdermal hematoma, like a straight up blood clot in his brain. He was in the midst of working on stuff, like had no idea, dude. You
You
know,
see what's her
multiple
face?
projects,
You see
etc.
what's her face have one? Well, she's pregnant. Gal Gadot had a blood clot, had a surgery, and she's pregnant. That shit, that's scary, dude. Blood
Yeah,
clots, aneurysms. That is the fucking.
exactly. That's
Terrifying shit, dude. I hate that.
so I have that, and it's like I read that he passed away. I read how, and I was like, shit, dude. And I had this like, damn. I feel like I kind of like have missed out on like huge swaths of this dude's work. Somebody who was like very, whether I knew it or not as a little kid, but like was very important to me and like brought me a lot of joy. That was my gateway into a whole genre. And I was just like, dude, I gotta step back and think about this for a second. I immediately start watching Sandland, which is on Hulu. I've mentioned it multiple times this year. Also a great show, just a little bit outside of my top 10. But Dragon Ball Daima started airing about 12 weeks ago, and it has been an absolute joy. I don't know if there's been anything, honestly, even stuff that's way higher on my list. I don't know if there's been anything that I've been as excited for week to week. It drops on Fridays, but I've been treating it like a Saturday morning cartoon. I wake up on Saturday, have my breakfast, and watch the new episode. And I've been absolutely loving it. It's a blast. It's kind of the last thing he was able to, like, he had the whole story arc planned out, etc. Most of it had gone into production, so this is kind of the last thing he got to oversee. So there will obviously be more Dragon Ball. There'll be presumably, they might extend the Sandland world. I don't know. Uh, but yeah, and it has sent me down a whole rabbit hole. I'm totally Dragon Ball pilled again. I've been going back to the movies. It's been a great time. But yeah, so RIP to a true legend, and go check that out. That's available on Hulu, Netflix, and Crunchyroll, I believe, pretty much everywhere simultaneously.
Hmm.
Uh, could not recommend it more highly, and especially with the little guy, whenever he does start watching stuff, it's it is way more in the vein of the old school 80s stuff where it's more adventure and fun and it's not constant like battles and and just
Battles that take 4 episodes to finish.
exactly. And
Yeah.
that's honestly like that's part of why I kind of it's a show that I felt like and a franchise that I felt like I kind of outgrew at a certain point or was like, oh, I like more classy anime or more adult themed anime, etc. And then, I kind of just had to get over myself and this basically watching Daima brought me back to like, dude, I love these characters, I love this world, and the animation. across the decades is like there's so many different eras of it, and it's been consistently just it's great, man. It's one of my favorite things. So I'm glad it presumably like 20 episodes. I hope for the first season, and we'll see where it goes from there. But to sell you on the show, I think it's just a great like gateway back in for anybody who's kind of tapped out of the universe for a while because it takes place way after all of these arcs, but they kind of start fresh by introducing a new villain who gets the Dragon Balls assembled and wishes for basically all of our heroes that we know to be shrunk down or to, like basically made into like it's like Dragon Ball babies essentially, thinking like oh it's gonna depower them like if they're smaller they won't be able to fight as well. So idiot, right? Uh, so you get the cute fun factor of like, oh, dude, like Goku looks like OG Goku, like structurally, but he's got the
Hmm.
cool outfit from Dragon Ball Z and like all these fun things. And notably, they keep the original voice actors who's done Goku through everything, but all of the other new adjusted younger cast are like all new voice actors. So you're kind of like establishing fun new versions of like these pre-established characters.
Hmm.
Uh, Animation's absolutely gorgeous. Anyways, they have to go to the demon realm, the three demon worlds, to get the demon realm Dragon Balls to save their friends, etc. And there's new characters introduced. I got a lot of new favorites. You got your old friends, but they kind of a lot of the characters who have been introduced in all these later arcs are kind of jettisoned, especially the younger characters are like when they get reduced down, they're basically like actual babies at this point. So we're
Oh.
kind of just dealing with like we got Goku, we got Bulma, we got Piccolo, we got Vegeta, like you know,
Hmm.
and then we introduce some new people, and it does very much feel like we're just on an old school adventure. The stakes are like not too crazy high, but like there's fun stuff happening. There's like battles every once in a while. There's a lot of hijinks, a lot of jokes, a lot of food. It's just, it's a great time, man. I've been absolutely loving it. That's my
Hmm.
number seven, Dragon Ball Daima. Uh,
Okay.
yeah, that was really long-winded, and I apologize.
Oh, that's
Uh,
cool.
but
I
your,
can hear the passion.
are we on your number seven? I was just gonna say when
No,
little guy gets a little bit bigger, just the colors alone, like it will keep him entertained for hours.
my number six.
Number six. What was your number seven? Excuse me, Mr. and Mrs.
Mr. and
Smith?
Mrs. Smith, yeah.
Okay, back to you for your number six.
I would love to tell you about my number six, Noah, but I've been sworn not to say nothing. Bring it down a little bit. No, anyway.
Put it
Say
on the table.
on the table. That's what you're
Sorry,
doing.
you can't see the.
Oh, there we go. Okay, yeah.
There's the table. Um,
It's tabled.
fuck. You know what? You know what? Fuck
I
it.
mean,
We can talk about it because all earlier you already stepped on it. When you asked me, you're like, you know who the dark is? And I literally said nothing. And then you said the title of
oh,
the show, thus ruining
the bid.
my number three favorite show of 2024.
Oh, okay.
But let's just talk about it, dude.
Okay.
Say Nothing on FX. Uh, the story of the Troubles uh, through the lens of two young sisters in the IRA. I had no familiarity with this story
None
whatsoever.
whatsoever.
Um, and I absolutely devoured this show. I thought it was maybe the most like purely engrossing thing I watched all year, where I just like I could not put it down. And I understood immediately where I was like, they could have dropped this week to week and let people find it, and it would have been a thing. And I feel like dropping it in a binge, it it had maybe a little bit of a moment, but I feel like this one is going to end up maybe falling by the wayside and like not enough people saw it. But at the same time, like definitely one of the best binges I had all year where
Definitely,
I
yeah. Hand down.
could not put it down. The way it played, like the way it moves through time, the way it hands off to the like older cast,
Hmm.
like the one of the best instances just of casting and characterization where it's like the consistency of those performances across decades when they like, have the two different actors. Incredible. And again, taking a story that again, I have like a vague familiarity with, but making it very much like character first, but giving you a window into all of the stuff that's going on, but giving you like a human grounded perspective on it and a
Hmm.
well-rounded perspective that is also informed by somebody looking back at their youth with
Right.
perspective, which is so much like what the show is about in the first place. Um, but it does all of that in a way that never felt like, oh, this is like, this is homework. It was like, again, it was like electrifying. It was essentially like a really souped up, like Irish crime thriller. And yeah, absolutely loved it. And then on top of it, has some of the more like emotionally devastating stuff I've seen in a show this year.
Oh
And
yeah,
when it
definitely.
hits, and when you kind of have to reckon with, and when the characters have to reckon with some of the stuff they did, and the fallout that's still being experienced like decades on,
Oh, dude, after
it,
every episode, when it comes up and it's just like Jerry, whatever, has always denied being in the IRA, I'm just like, bro,
yeah,
there's it's so I don't know. I feel like it's always been there in the background. Oh, the IRA, the IRA, the IRA. Like it's in the background of Sons of Anarchy.
that's what I'm
Uh,
saying. They're like a boogeyman in a lot of movies that we've
oh yeah,
seen,
Clear and
but
Present
they're
Danger.
net.
Or no, Patriot Games. Sean Bean is they were trying to get after the queen or whatever. It's like they're always there, but you're right. It's just like a boogeyman, like you say the wrong thing, you do the wrong thing, you'll just be disappeared. You won't be seen again. But then you give it the perspective of like, well, imagine if you lived in a country and you were born there, and then these people from a whole other different island came over and were like, actually, we're in charge here. And you were like, no, the fuck you're not. You don't live here. You aren't one of us. And so, as an agreement, half of the country's like, fuck them, get them out of here. A little tiny swath of it's like, no, they got to stay here. Yeah, of course this is going to happen. You know, of course this is what you're going to get. How could you think that you wouldn't get this?
Mhm.
Essentially, I'm not comparing the two, but it's like this all happens after Britain has withstood years of like deferential, destruction in the Battle of Britain and the Germans trying to come over. We're not 20 years removed from that. And then, bam, all this stuff starts happening where the sun never sets on the British Empire, you know? And it's like, here you go. And to reckon with that from their perspective, but then to have them when they get, you know, they do what they do in London, and to have people look at them as like, oh, these Irish just come over here, they multiply. And they're like, well, fuck you. We built your roads. Of course, like this, it hits every different, you could see every side of every person and completely
Well,
understand
and
like
then
where they're coming from, why they're doing what they're doing.
the thing that they introduce from literally the opening of the show too, which I think is like the real core of it, is that family story of the mom who's taken.
Right.
And how all of that plays out and the fact that that's something they continue to come back to, that I think is also one of the most important perspectives is, hey, I'm an Irish person who just lives here, and regardless of how I feel about it politically, I'm just trying to raise a family in the midst of all this shit and what that must have been like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like what was it? Rory shows up. I love the dude. He has the best line in it where he talks about like, oh, when we were in Kenya, I would show them people of their tribe and let them know that like they were telling it. They would never know who it was, but they knew somebody in their village was talking to us. Sometimes they murdered the dude, sometimes they didn't. But if they're too busy fighting amongst themselves, they're not busy enough trying to take out us. And that was my goal. And as soon as he said that, I was like, that is the entire reason why that conflict in like the Troubles was the Troubles. Had they just not gotten so far up their own ass about who's talking to who and just stayed united as like we're getting the English out, the English would have been gone a long time ago. But when you start worrying about who's doing what to who, and we can't do
Yeah.
this, we can't do that, it's like,
Settling all the scores, all the
exactly, yeah.
infighting, etc.
Like, yeah, of
The
course.
the in murdering, excuse
Hmm.
me. The inside assassinations, etc.
Right.
Yeah,
Oh,
okay.
and what about like,
He
okay, perfect casting for to me, like you said, with the people from the young to old, but when they introduced the play, the actor Stephen Ray as like a play, he's in a play, and I'm like, dude, that guy looks just like him. And Becky's like, who is that? I was like, this guy. You see this guy here? Does that not look like a complete like is that not his child on screen there? Look at him. They're like that's perfect casting for
again,
him being that young.
that
I had no
alone,
idea.
I had no idea that they were married for like a decade. Yeah, I was
Mhm.
like, what the hell? That blew my mind. I was like, I got to go back and watch Crying Game because I remember that was maybe the first thing I ever saw that dealt with it in any kind of depth of like
Right,
because they were both on opposite sides of the conflict, right? Him
right,
and Forrest Whitaker.
right.
Yeah. And I feel like that whole element was also lost on me because I was just waiting for like, hey, I know like there's a big reveal coming up here and like isn't that what this movie's about? But I think as a 13 or 14-year-old watching that movie, I think all of the greater like what the movie was about was completely lost on me. So I think I need to go back and watch that one again.
Mm, definitely.
Okay. Say Nothing is available on FX, on Hulu. It was Gavin's number six, and it is my number three favorite show of 2024. Uh, so
What's your
my
number
number
six?
six is an Apple TV Plus show, which I really, really hope people go and watch if they're not already, or if they watched the first season and haven't come back for the second yet, because it seems like one of those that's right on the cusp of like maybe we're not gonna finish what to this point has been one of like the greatest literary adaptations and like period dramas, multi-generational dramas I can think of ever. It's Pachinko season two finally came back. Uh, the continuing story of uh, one Korean family through the generations, through Japanese occupation, through World War II, through all the way up into the 80s and the Japanese economic boom. And uh, it's about intergenerational trauma, uh, just normal, like just living your life shit. But for people that have not watched the show or maybe just started it or vaguely know about it, season two, while we're cross cutting, we're constantly moving back and forth between like the 40s, the 80s, and they slowly like kind of introduce new time periods. There's still swaths of time that we don't, these huge gaps of time that we don't know where we're going. And there's all different actors at different ages. Another great show that like bridges the gap between a lot of different performances. Uh, this is when we finally get like Hiroshima. We knew it was coming,
Mhm.
but Hiroshima and Nagasaki are depicted uh, and the fallout and how it affects the family. And the way that that was handled in particular was not what I was expecting at all and was all the better for it. Uh, and then just consistently, this show just takes the smallest, like just like basic human interactions and stuff. And it is at the end of the day, it's melodrama. Like these are not themes and like storylines that you maybe haven't seen in other shows or other material, but you get grow so attached to the characters that you're right there with them in their highs, their lows. Like when they experience joy, I'm right there like crying with them, and when something bad happens to them, like I feel it, really fucking feel it. Uh, and again, it's uh, in like three different languages. You've got Korean, Japanese, and English, and it's a lot to keep up with, but the way it moves through time and space and connects everything thematically is, again, I think kind of unparalleled. Uh, there's theoretically three seasons left to finish this book.
Hmm.
I hope they get to do it because it is a great, great fucking show. I hope more people watch it. But last I heard, it was kind of like, hey, Uh, if we don't, because I mean, they are recreating like the 40s, and it looks amazing. They're like the everything about the show from a production standpoint is top notch. And I get that it's probably a very expensive international co-production, but yeah, I want more of it. So please go watch Pachinko. More than any other show I will mention on this list, please go watch that show.
All right. And that was your six, right?
Oh, yes. So I think we are moving into the top five. Do we want to do a little rundown for everybody thus far?
Yeah, just tell me tell me your 10 to 6 and I'll just tell you my 10 to 6
From
so
the
we can jump right
10
in.
to 6, I had The Penguin at number 10. At number 9, True Detective Night Country. At number 8, The Bear, Part 3. At number 7, Dragon Ball Daima. And at number 6, once again, Pachinko, Season 2.
All right, starting at number 10, I had Masters of the Air. Number 9 was Presumed Innocent. Number 8, True Detective Night Country. Number 7, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Number 6 was Say Nothing. And halfway synergy, my number 5 is Penguin?
What?
What?
Yes. Very, very high. Very high. I'm happy to see that. I don't think
I
we,
loved it.
well, here's the thing. I liked it quite a bit and was like, this is a really solid show. Like, this is, uh, not, I won't say like way better than I expected because honestly, I was like, Colin Farrell, HBO in this universe, I think it's going to be pretty good. I was not like, I wasn't scared. I wasn't scared.
Yeah.
But I will say that finale, and
Ooh,
I'm gonna assume most people, because that show was like it did what it did. I think there was people who definitely were like on the fence about it, but like a few weeks into it, people were telling you like, no, it's good, you should check it out. So I'm gonna take the leap of faith that anybody who has wanted to watch it has watched it. The final episode,
oh, real quick.
sorry, by all means.
No, no, no. Mom goes, I thought I saw all Penguin, but I guess I missed the final last one. And now I don't like it anymore. I was like, okay, Mom. Okay, all right.
That's okay.
Well,
That's
so
like
yeah.
that's the best reaction ever.
Hmm. Yes.
Because I'm like, Mom, what the fuck show have you been watching for? This is a breaking. I'm sorry. My apologies if you are listening. Elise, I'm gonna call you out, okay? Elise Niles, Tim's wife, tapped out on Breaking Bad after, spoiler alert for Breaking fucking Bad, so sorry, after Walt kills Mike, she literally was like, this is bullshit. This makes no sense.
Oh my
Why
God.
would he do this? I don't like him anymore.
Oh my
And I
God.
will not be finishing the show. And to my knowledge, she has never actually finished the rest of the show because she
Wow.
was so upset by that. So this is a total Elise Breaking Bad situation. Mom, what show did you think you were watching up until the finale? He's not a good guy. He's not a good guy.
Yeah. I and
See,
like I
so
knew it
here,
was coming. I'm
Gavin,
like, oh God.
I was listening to podcast where the episode prior where they reveal, yeah, that little fuck, he locked his brothers in a sewer and he went back home to hang with his mom. This little Oedipal piece of shit. Um, and they're like, and he's just sitting there, just as the tide's rising, you know. Um, they're on the Ringerverse podcast. They were like, yeah, but I mean, he's a kid though. Like he didn't know the water was gonna rise, and like, what do you think he's thinking in that moment? Like he's not thinking my brothers are dying, and I'm like, no, he's thinking like, oh, dude, me and my mom forever, great.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's what he's thinking. I'm like, he's a little sociopath. Like, what are you? I just at the fact that we had taken this character who already started as a villain, and then somehow everybody was like, oh, I really like him though. Like, dude, I fucking love him. And then cut to the finale. He is choking out Vic. And I was like actively, like, really, really upset. And like,
Hmm.
dude, this is fucked. But I also was like, dude, this show, I was like, the fucking balls to just straight up remind you, remember, we're making a show about a comic book villain. Like, we need to, like, we don't want you going into Batman Part 2 rooting for Colin Farrell.
The
Like,
way you rooted for Joker in Folly Ado, like you wanted him to win. No,
exactly,
he's a
exactly,
terrible person.
exactly.
Yes,
I'm
no,
just like,
and that was, dude, that was the most beautiful thing is like the opening. Okay, Oz, the prince, the family. He says something like, we know who you are, Oz. Say what? Pop, 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 pop. Like, oh, fuck. Okay, all right. So here we are. And then he catches Big trying to steal his rims. Just because he doesn't kill him
he almost,
right away.
you think he's gonna kill him at the end of that, at the pilot. Like,
Yeah.
he might as well, you know? So
The
the
only
fact that,
reason I
yeah,
could say you shouldn't is because, yes, he did get all the other underling kids who were like, oh, we'll fuck over our own bosses, Joker style, and just like off them,
right.
and we're all about you. And I think people loved him because he did give a lot of rousing speeches about how, like, we took it from them. They got the money, they got the power. We just sit here and take it. But there's more of us than there is them, and we should stand up to him. I'm like, yeah, if I'm watching this and I'm wondering for this guy, of course. He's a
But you,
he,
but you
but you got to
also
remember,
have, you also have Sophia over here, the parallel story the whole time, who is victimized through the entirety
entire
of
series, yes.
of the series by her father, by all these different institutions, and most importantly, by
By Oz.
Oz
Hmm.
multiple times. And it's just like she's the one telling you like, no, I know who he is. Like, I see who he is through all of this bullshit. He only cares about himself. Like, literally at the end of the day, all of you could burn. And it's like you kind of are like holding out hope for, you're like, but the mom and Vic, right? But mom and Vic, right? And dude, the scene between him and the mom in the finale, like,
Oh, dude. Yeah.
yes, that's what I'm saying is like we
And
had what I
okay.
thought was a
And also,
pretty good show. That finale is one of the best like hours of television I saw all year. That was so
dude,
good.
the reveal that like because we always see him and I cannot remember the lady's name, the call girl prostitute one that he was always with. I don't remember the actress. I know who the actress is, but
Carmen
like I don't.
Jogo from
Yeah,
True Detective season 3.
right. Yeah. Um, but to finally have the reveal in the finale that like she dresses up like his mom that
Oh,
night that they went out, and
yeah.
that's what she does for him. You're my man, you're my boy, Oz. This is that. Like, of course, this is what she does. This is why he didn't just get rid of her like he would have any other person,
Cuz
sort
you're sit
anybody down to her because like he's got that mom thing. It's
yeah.
like Jesus, man. I don't, and like I would love it if he's nowhere in Batman Part Two. He's just doing his thing on the low.
Well,
He may pop up here
here's the
and
thing
there.
is I don't think you're going to see him in Batman Part 2, partly because that movie keeps getting delayed and delayed and
Yeah,
delayed, but
yeah,
also because
sucks.
I don't think they realized how like how much people were going to love this series, and I think they
Mm-hmm.
are now scrambling to figure out how do we do more Penguin before like I think they're actively rejuggling right now because they didn't realize that like this was going to be a thing.
Yeah.
That's what I think is. I'm not saying that's part of the delays for Batman Part 2. I'm saying I think they had no plans for a season 2. This was a self-contained thing to like hand off. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, we literally got the bat signal right at the end, which I personally loved because I did hear people week to week going like, dude, this is fucking weird. Like, you tell me Batman wouldn't show up for this, this, and this. And I'm like, just like, no, I like the idea that he's off dealing with some other shit right now. This is all
Well,
low.
like,
Like, he's probably
yeah,
aware of this, but it doesn't
he
like
knows
none
that
of this is affecting him right now. It's a lot of like the trash taking out the trash, so to speak.
yeah, and he knows that like he left him and Gordon left, you know, Oz, like when they realized, oh, it wasn't bad, it was rat, it was what wasn't rat, it was bad, whatever they, he knows, we all know that he knows who he is. But I mean, you had Falcone that was there, you had the Riddler who was like trying to blow up Gotham. So in the grand scheme of things, if there's somebody pushing a new drug in a washed out part of town that nobody really gives a shit about now, it's kind of slim pickings, you know? Like there's probably a bigger threat to deal with, which is why I was like, make make it make Batman part the second Batman movie have nothing to do with Penguin. Like that's happening simultaneously to like what Oz is doing right after the I'm gonna call it the flood, but the end, all the shit that went down at the end of the first one. Batman's got more bigger things to worry about than like this guy who used to be a second-rate mob enforcer dude. Falcone's gone, and I love, oh, dude, Clancy Brown as
Oh yeah.
Carmine, dude. Just or was he? Was it Carmine? He was Carmine Falcone, right?
No. Sorry. So
He was
Jared
Salvatore. That's right, Salvatore
Salvatore Maroni.
wrote
Yes,
Maroni,
I
which
was
is
gonna say
Eric Roberts' character in The Dark Knight. I had explained to Becky. I was like,
correct.
see,
And Tom
Carmine
and Tom
Falcone was Tom
Wilkins.
Wilkinson,
Yeah.
and when he goes up river because he's all scared from the Joker's or the Scarecrow's drug, and then Eric Roberts had to step in, and then he got dropped out a window, but only enough to break his ankles, not enough to kill him. But yeah, dude, Clancy Brown, I love that. I was like, hell yeah, dude. So many. I don't know. It was great. It was my number five, and I
I do just want to shout out before we kind of tap out of Batman realm. A great show in its own
oh, the
right.
Cape Crusader.
Cape
Yeah,
Crusader,
definitely, yeah.
which was at my number 17, which I do think we've got confirmed we are getting more of. And again, it's kind of like a soft revival of the animated series, but just kind of a little bit aged up, slightly different art style, and doing some different things, remixing some characters, and has, I'll say it again, uh, the best vocal performance of Batman post Kevin Conroy because Hamish Linklater clearly is like, I'm just gonna why not just go ahead and try and do the best one that exists? So I'm just gonna do that. And I thoroughly enjoyed that first season. Can't wait for more. That's available on Amazon Prime. Penguin is, of course, on HBO or the Max app, as it's known. Okay,
Right.
my number five, uh, inspired kind of by my reinvigoration with Dragon Ball and with Sandland earlier this year. I always Here's the thing. I know myself, and I know if I really let myself run wild, I think like all I would watch would be anime, like because there's so much of it that if I really was just like, dude, I'm going full bore into this, like it would be all consuming. And I think that's what has always kept me on the like, nah, dude, I need self-contained like 26 episode arcs that are like, that's it. Like I can't do the shows that I can't do your One Pieces, your Naruto. I can't do your stuff that goes on forever and ever. It's part of why I tapped out of like Dragon Ball Z eventually, you know? Um, all of that to say, uh, every year now I kind of am like, all right, well, what are the top ones? Like, what are the ones that people are flipping out about that are either new or don't have a huge episode count that I can, you know, try and plug into? This year, Delicious in Dungeon on
Hmm.
Netflix was that show. Have you,
Hmm.
or you have any awareness whatsoever?
Mm-mm.
Okay. I think the series has been running, I want to say since like 2014, the manga, I believe. It
Hmm.
may be earlier than that. But this is the first season. It's 24 episodes. Basic setup. There's this magical dungeon in a mythical land. You go you go down it. They're trying to explore it. Everybody's trying to find this uh like wizard king at the center of it who if you can find him you get to take over the dungeon, you become the new king, some sort of shit like that. There's all these different monsters, traps, puzzles, etc. So you've got like an RPG setup of like there's different groups questing into here. uh but the big hook of the show is normally people are like on the surface level they bring down provisions, blah blah blah, they go down, they adventure, they try and see how far they can get. This one crew that we're following, all of our hero characters and shit, uh, they come up with the marvelous idea that they're going to cook or kill, cook and eat the monsters of the dungeon so that they can just continue to progress. They don't have to like come back up for provision, they're just
Hmm.
self-sustaining along the way. So basically, yeah, great setup. Every episode, you got a big monster, a crazy, fantastical monster that you've never seen before. Then
Hmm.
they kill it. You got to figure out how to kill it, and then they got to figure out how to cook it. They make delicious looking food. Uh, Fantastic characters, great adventure setting. Uh, it just, I don't know, everything you could possibly want, and just like a great, fun. adventure anime, and I absolutely loved like every second of it. Not a dull moment. Super like laugh out loud funny, great animation. Uh, yeah,
Hmm.
great characters. Really like playing with all your kind of traditional RPG hero archetypes and totally like subverting them in super interesting ways. But
Hmm.
I think like I know every once in a while you'll get into one. I could see you actually really enjoying Delicious in Dungeon.
Hmm.
That's available on Netflix. Season 2 confirmed. I don't think we'll actually get any of it until 26, but we'll see. Yeah, that's my number 5.
All right. My number four is an FX show called Shogun.
We can go ahead and talk about it.
Okay.
Shogun is my number 2 favorite show
Oh,
of 2024. You and I don't think got to talk about it too much. Evan and I did an episode
took me a
where,
minute to get to it.
yeah, Evan and I did an episode where we discussed it. And to refresh everybody's memories, because this is maybe after True Detective, like the earliest show of the year that
Yeah,
we've
yeah, February,
discussed
right?
so far. I think so. Uh, which, of course, I mean, now at this point, cleaned up at the Emmys, all sorts of
Oh, yeah,
awards,
yeah.
all over the place. Uh, but yeah, you and I never really got to talk about it. So what'd you think when you you probably saw it post all of the hype. So
No, I mean, I caught it before. I caught it once it had finished and it was all everything was out. Like I binged it. It was one of those I had to start before 10 o'clock. And again, I'm up doing bottles and all this kind of stuff. And it's like I'm not gonna watch it with a dub on. I'm gonna watch it with subtitles, but I gotta pay attention to what I'm doing. So it took me a minute to get through it.
So
But it
again, so weird to me. Sorry to interject, but so weird to me that a show that so hinges on the language and performances that they even offered a dubbed version.
Yeah.
But I knew that was a thing from the get-go, and I was just like, I don't even know how that would play. Because you have like three different languages being spoken at once already.
Hmm.
Like, and again, the way that they're literally like playing with language through performance and all of that, I don't even know how you do that in a dub. I
Yeah.
I don't get it. Okay, so it feels like it would lose like a lot of the nuance.
Yeah,
So
definitely. It's one of
so
those,
if you haven't watched Shogun yet, please don't do it with a dub.
yeah, please God no. It's one of those where like I think most people who are going to go into this are like, oh, okay, it's going to be like a samurai epic. There's going to be like massive
They're like
battles.
it's gonna be
There's going
Game
to
of
be like
Thrones with
dynasty
yes.
warrior type stuff, battles from like those dynasty warrior games, even though we're in Japan, not China. Like it's going to be dope. And the fact that it was just like this, like kind of intense political thriller of the day, I was just like, you know what? I appreciate it
Well, and
because it,
also not not even just that, the fact that it's so cultural that it like
yeah.
literally sits in the differences and the tensions of all of like literally
Hmm.
like your outlooks on life. I was like, it was so much richer than you would ever expect it to be, like going into it. Because yes, at a distance, I was like, it looks like Game of Thrones with samurai. That's what I thought I was getting, and I was
And
super excited for it.
if you want to get technical, this is the second FX show that has to deal with Catholics and Protestants that came out this year. Because that's
Yeah.
all it is. It's just, and again, it's in it. If I'm remembering my history correctly, I could be wrong. I think when this takes place, the country just opened up, but it had been fighting itself for hundreds of years. Like an old history professor of mine always talked about, like the biggest thing for anybody is finding something for young men to do. Richard, the Lionheart, he had to find something for young men to do. Otherwise, you're just going to cause chaos in their own country. So let's send them to Jerusalem to win the Holy Land. All these different guys, Alexander, Napoleon, all these guys. You got to give them something to do because if they sit around all horny and jacked up, they're not going to do it. It's going to be chaos. Same thing in Japan. It's something to do. All right, you're this feudal warlord. You're this person. You're that person. who's the one guy that's going to try and unite them all under one banner? And I think I've mentioned it before. There is a brilliant documentary slash mockumentary kind of thing, whatever, on Netflix that goes through the entire history of like, okay, well, Nobunaga Oda was going to do this, but then he got killed, and then it was his dude, and it takes you from the beginning of like all these tribal, feudal states becoming bigger and bigger, all the way up until basically the events of what we would call like Last Samurai, where like there's now an emperor and
Hmm.
all that. And it's if you get a chance, go check that on Netflix. But this, I believe, they open up the country right as like we're on the end of that downward spiral where we have the feudal states and like the different people are like bound by honor to this person and that person. There's a tribunal of guys that are like, we've been fighting. This is what keeps us from fighting. But you have men on your side that are like, I don't know, you could call them like your button men from the mafia. They're ready to go to the mat for you. And then like just you talk about being cultural, just showing the like, okay, I've dishonored my master, so now I'm gonna have to commit suicide. But also like my firstborn child's gonna die, and then my wife, who's still alive, who has basically carried this child, given birth to it. Now it's going to be sacrificed. I'm sacrificed myself, and she's alone. Now she's got to deal with this bumbling, uh, pirate from, wherever. I can't remember where he said he was from. That's trying to play all sides just to get his ship back, just to get, whatever he can. And from the, without the Catholics doing whatever they're going to do, all this. So it's like, it's one of those things that like when you take a step back and you look at it, it's like I'm kind of glad I didn't get like the all the fighting and all like the grand stuff. I like that it sits in and it's like, well, this is this tiny little detail, and this is this
Well,
tiny
again,
little thing
that's
here.
what I'm saying. It just like
That's the best part of it.
super rich characters get like literally transportive into a time and place and like lets you sit in it. I just I was absolutely knocked out by it on every level. And it's like, it would be enough to just have the production value, the core story, etc. Add to that, you have two like absolute all-timer performances happening. One from Anna Sawai as like a who the fuck is this person?
Right.
Where did she come from? Where has she been all my life? She's on Pachinko as well, by the way.
Is she not in
And
Godzilla or
I think she is.
Monarch?
She's been,
She's in
yeah,
Monarch. That's right,
she's
because
this
Becky and I
is
watched
this
Monarch
is her
before I got to
year
this.
or
Yeah.
like yeah, just like she's been popping off. She was in the first season of Pachinko, I think, but only briefly. M More substantial role in the second season. Uh, but so it's kind of that new discovery where you're just like, oh my God, like who is this person? Who is this character?
Hmm.
An immediate favorite kind of thing in a show that has so many great characters.
Oh yeah.
And then on the other side of it, you have like one of the established like greatest actors in the history of Japanese cinema, Hiroyuki Sanada,
Hmm.
delivering arguably his greatest like the role of a
Hands down.
lifetime, the greatest
Fucking
performance
hands
he's
down.
ever done, where you're just like, the dude is communicating like a
Everything.
bazillion different emotions on
Everything.
his face and saying no words. And I'm getting so much from this guy. And then over here on the side, you also have I think it's Torinobu Asano as Yabushige.
Yes.
Just my fucking dude. We said like again, Peter Sarsgaard, Tommy Malto up there for character of the year, but Yabushige takes the fucking crown. Takes the absolute crown, dude. The man. The final scene between the two of them on the cliff in the finale.
Yeah. Perfect.
I just I talked about it with Evan on that episode, dude. I was just like the fact that that's the moment we arrived at, and I didn't realize as I was watching the show that I was like, this is all I want is these two dudes sitting on this cliff right now. This is all I could
Yes.
have ever asked for. Uh, just a great show. They're doing another season. Don't fuck it up, guys. Don't fuck it up. You made it just an absolute banger, 10 out of 10 in my opinion. Uh, if you're gonna make more of it, just keep it that same caliber. Don't fuck it up. You don't have Anna Sawai going into season two. I'm just saying, be careful. Be careful with your casting. Be careful with whatever story you're doing because I don't know how much is left beyond. I know like the core Shogun novel. I know he did more. I believe Blackthorn novels are like an extension of,
Hmm.
uh, but I don't know how much of that they already kind of melded into the show. I don't know what source material they have to work with. I trust that given how top to bottom on every level this show just absolutely hit this year, I I have every faith that season two is going to be amazing. But I also don't think it needs it. It's definitely one of those where I was like, you guys could have that could have just been it. So if we're going to do more, you better show me something. Like, you know what I mean? So, yeah, can't wait for more of that. Probably won't get it for a couple years, but
Yeah.
yeah. Shogun season one, we can call it season one. And so that was my number two and your number four.
Yep. So give me your number four.
My number four is Stax, Soulsville, USA.
Hmm.
This was I think it's three-part HBO documentary series
Yeah, I still haven't watched it yet. I
on
definitely need to
Stax
check it out.
Records.
Hmm.
Um, just flat out one of the best music docs I've ever seen. Uh, it goes into the family history of the actual like label itself and then extends into all of the artists that are still living. We get great archival footage, great performance footage. I may have mentioned this on an earlier episode, so apologies if I'm repeating myself. The reason that I loved this so much, um, gotten a lot of, so obviously Paramount Plus, they're kind of constantly, cranking out these docs here and there if you look for them because MTV is a part of the Paramount, label, and they, in theory, are like, hey, we still do music stuff from time to time. So what you get are a lot of these like hour and a half docs about musical subgenre or a particular, maybe a particular live show or a festival or something. And you get a lot of talking heads and a bunch of little snippets of music, like 15, 30 seconds, like, and oftentimes I find myself just like, dude, if you have all this footage, like, I would like to see some of it. Like, let
Right.
me see it. And that's the biggest compliment I could pay the Stax documentary is like the reason it's three parts is because like it will just be like, yeah, I want to watch Otis Redding play live right now for 4 minutes. Let's do that. Like, I mean, and again, the shit they have access to, I'm just like, where's this been? It's kind of,
It's kind of like that greatest
greatest
night
night
in
in
pop that's on
pop,
Netflix. Like, wait
which
a
I
minute.
thoroughly
There
enjoyed
was
this year as
cameras in that
well.
room, and I'm just finding out about it in 2024.
Yes.
You filmed the whole goddamn night, and I don't know about it until
Yeah.
2024.
I uh
What the hell's wrong with
I
you?
sh I shouted and screamed at mom and dad to watch this one way earlier this year, and I don't know if they ever got to it. So, mom, dad, if you are listening to this episode, this is your reminder. It's on HBO, on Max. That's the Max app, mom. The Max app. I don't know where you watch that at. Uh, okay.
Then when you're done with that, go watch the Yacht
Stacks.
Rock one.
Yes. Soulsville,
Stacks,
USA.
Stacks, and then Yacht Rock.
Again, like the yacht rock one, again, we got to spend some time in the songs. They dwelled in the
Yeah,
songs. I'm just like, I am not a fan of like, we're making a music doc and we're not going to play any music. I'm just like, guys, let it breathe. Like, just let it
yeah,
breathe just a little bit.
yeah.
Okay. Uh, yep, that was my number four.
All right,
Your
so
number
number
three.
three. My number three is an Apple TV show called Shrinking, season two.
Season two.
Season two just wrapped up.
Season one made your list last year. Is that
It
correct?
sure did.
Alrighty. But are we higher,
Um,
lower? Just still
I can't remember where it
consistently
was.
great?
Still consistently great and is giving me the itch that Ted Lasso does. Like I needed something more, not necessarily from like Sudeikis, something more from Brett Goldstein. And it just at the end of last season, it was slowly becoming like, okay, like they're all fleshed out now. I get all the characters. And then season two starts and we're there with them and they're great. And then they're introducing more people. And I'm just like, okay, great. And then they introduced Brett Goldstein. And I'm like, oh my God, boy, Kent's here again. But he's not the guy you think he is. When you realize who he is, you're like, son of a bitch, this guy. And then So I didn't realize there was another episode, and the way they left it, I thought, oh wow, that's a great way to just end the season. But then when they came back and Becky's like, oh, you didn't know we had one more? Click. Oh shit. Okay, great. And the way they actually ended the season, no perfect. There's been a lot of stuff I've read, a lot of stuff people I've seen where people are like, Harrison Ford's been acting his entire, like my entire life that I've been born, Harrison Ford's been acting. So I can honestly say that his role in Shrinking is the best role he's ever been in. And he even has talked about now people come up and they just say, he's like, I'm used to them wanting like a photo or to tell me something about Star Wars. And now they come up to me and they're like, hey, I really love what you did I really love what you do, Paul. And then they fucking leave me alone. They just leave. They think I'm the guy. They think I'm the character. They think I'm that crotchety old man, but I got all this wisdom. And it's just like people think it's like he talks about how people have changed their perception of him when they meet him for that,
Hmm.
because of that show. And, it's just when I listen to the premise of like, well, when you break the premise down of like, well, what if the person that's like kind of in charge, the authority figure, what if they'd have nothing in their life is going right? You know, it sounds like a simple premise, kind of like the idea of like, what if you just didn't know what you did at work? You just turned your brain off and you just knew you went to work and you went home. You don't know what you
Hmm.
did inside of work. Simple premise just like that, and it's expanded upon so much more, and the characters get richer and the storyline gets better. And I mean, if they did one more season I'd be happy. If they did three more seasons I'd be in heaven. But it's one of these, I just want to sit and be with these characters for a while. The writing, just the back and forth, how quippy and like blunt, and the jokes are funny. Every different person's represented. You can find yourself in every character or just one, but you get enough time with them to be like, okay, this is my show. Whether it's a main character or a friend of a friend of a friend of a friend that's there, it's just, I don't know, it's one of the best shows on Apple right now as far as I'm concerned. And I hope that we get more from it. I hope that the writers and actors strike didn't mess with it too much. I was excited. I wasn't even thinking about the fact that we got this. I just saw they were going to release Severance next month, and I was like, awesome. And then right after that, they're like, oh yeah, by the way, Shrinking's coming back right before the end of the year. I was like, oh shit, yes, here we go. So yeah, my number three, Shrinking, with Jason Segel, Harrison Ford, and a whole plethora of other casts that you're gonna love. I promise.
After
You're gonna
two
love the way you feel. I guarantee it.
after 2 years running, I think of everything you've listed so far, I think Shrinking is top of my list to start next.
Definitely, please do.
Uh, all right, my number three was Say Nothing.
Okay.
My number two was Shogun. What's your number two, brother?
My number two is a show that's still running, but I have all the confidence in the world that it's going to be number two. That show is not HBO, another Apple TV show called Silo
Okay,
with Miss
so
Rebecca Ferguson.
so we never realized that in you trying to do a Daniel Plainview, you do a mean John Huston. Like a
Really?
really good John Huston. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Cool.
I'm Noah Cross.
Okay. Who's John Huston? Which one's he?
He's Noah Cross in Chinatown.
Oh, that's right.
That's what I always go to if you need to hit the voice or whatever.
Okay, I get it.
But yeah, you're picturing him now, famous director
I
as
am. Yeah,
well.
that's what.
You know
Yeah,
John
okay.
Huston. Yeah. Uh,
Angelica's dad. I get it.
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Um, okay. I'm sorry, we got lost in the sauce there. What's your
Silo.
number two? Silo.
Silo
Okay. Also
with
on Apple TV. Apple
yes.
TV having a really big showing uh,
Hmm.
this year. I think.
You got to get yourself the family plan. You can watch it. Your family can watch it. You can have more than one person in your family. I have my spouse, fiance, girlfriend, and my brother. I could add one more if I wanted, but I think I did. I think my mother watches it too. You got to get yourself the Apple Family Plan. 9.99 a month for everything. The television, the arcade, multiple people. This podcast is not sponsored by Apple, but God bless you, Steve Jobs. Thank you, Tim Cook. And back to you, Noah, for your number two. I'm just
Tim Apple.
kidding.
Thank you, Tim Apple.
Thank you, Tim Apple. You're my boy, Blue. Um, no, Silo, dude. I know that I know it's based off a book series. I have not gone to look and see what's what, just to
Because as
get
we
caught
all
up.
know, Gavin doesn't read.
I don't read at
I
all.
thought you were about to say it. Obviously, I
As
haven't
we
read any of them.
I've never read any of the books. I only listen to podcasts that I'm on, and I only watch TV shows about stuff I don't know nothing about. And I just not really good with that book learning stuff. Um, yeah, no.
2025 resolution, read more books, more book
Yes,
learning.
more book learning. Um, First one on the list, The Princess Bride by S. Morgenstern. Silo, again, why do we love stuff about like the end of the world or like what happened somewhere else? Who knows? I personally believe this is all just simulation. I have for years, even before that documentary came out. So I like the idea that like, what if what just a different version of? I mean, it shows me a life that like I think I'd be okay with, but one that I'm glad I don't have. If that makes
Okay.
sense. In a post-apocalyptic, like it's not even post-apocalypse. You don't even know what's going on. You're in the silo. And the reveal of like, okay, maybe we're not being told everything. That's universal, you know? I mean, how is it that one guy can get to a CEO, but they can't get Trump twice? Like, come on, man. We're not being told everything, you know? Something's going on.
Okay.
Everybody's a suspect. No,
Okay.
seriously.
So,
But like
and
the reveal in the world that they created in season one, it's only been expanded on to season two. Season two is still ongoing. But the thing I've seen online, people love, and I'm like, how are you guys just figuring out about it? But everybody's like, oh, fucking Steve's on. Put him in more stuff. And I feel like you and I have been like, bro, fucking Steve's on from day one. We just talked about how great that dude is. You know?
just rewatched Joyride back in October.
Of see,
You
that's what I'm talking about.
know.
You know?
Um, I have
What
to
else is he in?
ask.
What else is he in? What?
Uh, if you want the like, oh, I didn't know he had it in him. Rescue Dawn.
Oh no, that's a good one. Yeah, I
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that one. Yeah,
But
he's really good in
great and
that.
everything. Great and everything.
Yeah.
Uh, okay. Oh, my question is, again, I haven't even dipped a toe into Silo. Does it have the mystery box, like what's going on here element of like a Lost or a Severance? Like are you kind of constantly trying to figure out why they're in the silo? Or we know why they're in the silo. The question is what's happening outside. Maybe they're not being told everything.
It's the okay. I know
Okay,
this is my.
so
It's like she's
with
in one
that,
world.
and you don't have to spoil anything for me. How do you feel like that, like those elements are progressing season to season? Like, do you feel like you're being strung along, or do you feel like you're getting satisfying payoffs and new intriguing questions? Because I know that's a with shows like this, that can sometimes be the like, the sticking point for some people getting into them is like, am I investing a bunch of time in something that feels like they don't really know where this is going? Or does it feel like these guys are in complete control and this is going to be a satisfying like
See,
mystery that comes to a
I,
good conclusion? How you feeling about it?
I feel I'm very optimistic about it, and I feel like had I done what I always do, what I used to always do, and like, oh, it was based off a book. Well, let me go read a synopsis of every one of these books and see what happens and like where am I going? How does this match up? Because part of me, if it does have a source material, I'd like to know the source material just so I could see what little nuances and idiosyncrasies they either hit on or they don't, how they switch things up. It's not that I want to know everything and I want to know what happens before I watch it. I just kind of want to, I like the idea like, oh, if there's something that's supposed to happen, how do you take it from a book to a television show and either give me that point or subvert it or change it or do your own thing with it, you know? But I don't know any of that. I have purposely not done any of that. So just on what I've seen alone, I feel like it's rolling along good and it's giving me enough of like, okay, I know the world, I know her motivations, the characters we brought in and we've been focusing on in season two. I'm it's never one where I'm just like, oh, it's these people. I'll check out on my phone. I'm always engaged with who's doing what. I think Tim Robbins is doing some of the dopest shit I've seen him do in years, the character that he's in. And I've said it before, I'll say it. I said it last year when we talked about Silo, this year too. Fucking Common, dude. Like, he just shows up. He just, like, he's so fucking good in anything he's in. But every time he shows up, I'm like, what the fuck are you doing here, Common? You don't. And then he's just a fucking amazing. I'm like, oh, that's why you're here. Sorry, my bad. It's like Smoking Aces. What the fuck are you doing here, Common? And then
All right.
he nails it. Everything he's in. He just he's I don't know if the dude's released an album in 10 years or what, but he's killing it on television shows and movies. And what they've done with his character, I fucking love. I can't wait to see where it's gonna roll with. Obviously, I said they introduced Steve Zahn. Again, Rebecca Ferguson still is like the center of it all. And like I get her. What I've been given with her motivations is great. Sir Jorah playing her dad, like that relationship thing's going great. It's again, the world that it's built and what it's saying, you could look at it as like a microcosm of like today if you wanted to, or you could just be like, you know what, this is just fun. If you want to graft on things where you feel like maybe the people who are in charge aren't telling you things, maybe things aren't exactly the way you seem because like you're in your own little echo
It's a
chamber box.
compelling show within its own narrative, not just
Right,
because it's paralleling like
right.
grander themes. I like that.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Uh, well, I guess Silo maybe number two on the what I should get to list.
Oh yeah, definitely do shrinking in that silo. Just because, HIJK element, it's just alphabetical, shrinking and then silo,
Just makes
obviously.
sense,
Yeah,
obviously. Uh,
it writes itself.
I think I know what your number one is.
I think you do too, and it's probably going to be really weird that they're kind of back to back the same thing, but I'll explain why.
Are you gonna
What's
explain
your
why right now?
No, no, no.
Because
Tell me your number one.
because it's not the same show.
Oh, you don't have the we
My
don't have the same number one. That's fine.
my number one is a show that I don't know that you have started yet, but this will be the one that I demand that if you're gonna start anything, you got to start this right now, immediately. Uh, my number one favorite show of 2024 is Industry Season 3.
Dude, you know what?
The show of
So,
shows, my friend. The
okay,
show of
listen,
shows.
listen. Okay, I didn't put it on here because it was kind of a slog and a letdown for this season, so I didn't. But as soon as I got done with House of Dragon, what did we do? Becky and I went back through Game of Thrones. As soon as I get done with Game of Thrones, I'm like, what's Industry? What the hell is this? There's 3 seasons of it. What the hell is this show? We still haven't started it. We do this thing where we start stuff and it's like we call it. It's like table. We're like are tabling it, but like if she likes it, I can't watch it on my own anymore. So I kind of want to do it on my own and not tell her, but I know if I do it on my own and she finds out about it, I'm going to be in trouble.
It is right now in the like culture like culturally grand scheme of things. It's in like the Succession season 2 position
Ooh,
where it's like people are catching on to it.
okay.
Execution of the show, it's like Succession season 3 and 4.
Oh
Like
shit.
it
Okay.
is the way the show has progressed. And sorry, broad strokes for anybody who's not watching it. It had a huge like, you know, ballooning of its audience this year.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like.
But for people who haven't checked it out, because on paper it's nothing I would, have really any interest in, but you're essentially following a bunch of like financial grads like out of school as they start work in like new firms and stuff. And if that doesn't interest you at all, because most of these people are going to work for like investment banks and shit. I have no interest in the stock market. I don't know how it works. I don't particularly care about finance, etc. Um, and you could go into the show with a lot of knowledge and be completely disappointed by it because it's not about any of that shit. And it's so jargon heavy, which I love, but like you don't have to know any of what they're doing because it's like you just trust that the characters like know what they're doing kind of thing. And that's at the end of the day what it's about. It just has some of the best high level like writing, comedy, performances across the board. The first season is really good and you're like, dude, this show's got a lot of energy. I like some of these characters interesting tone. Like, it's a cool world. Like, all right, we'll see. Second season, like, jumps up there a notch, and you're like, okay, okay, this show's got some moves. All right. And yes, season three is a top to bottom one of those where you're just like, I cannot believe they are operating at this like 10 out of 10 high wire act, not wasting an ounce of story, burning through story. There are episodes that feel like seasons, like in terms of the amount of like content and like just like holy fuck, like wait, that just happened. Um, and they're pulling it off, dude. They are executing at like the absolute highest level of any dramatic television show on
Hmm.
right now. It is that like top tier HBO, like it's gonna be a Pantheon show. If they don't fuck up this fourth season, dude, if they manage to continue to elevate in the way that they have, this this fourth season will like cement them as we're talking like top 10 all time. This show is fucking brilliant. You got to start watching it. I need to be able to talk to you about it.
Okay.
It's so good. It's so good.
All right. I will.
And it is just crawling with all sorts of actors that you have seen and are starting to
Oh,
see
I'm
all over
sure.
the
Yeah.
place now. But Mahala, who was in, oh, excuse me, your boy, fucking, oh my God, Mr. Robot. Mr. Robot.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Sam Esmail's movie last year, Leave the World
Leave the world
Behind.
behind. Yeah.
Jesus Christ, that
We
took
got
way
there.
too
We
long.
got. We got there. We got there.
Yes, Mahershala's daughter.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a
Yes,
daughter. It's a wife in the book, daughter in the movie. Yeah.
she is kind of basically your lead. Did you watch?
Okay.
Did you watch Folia Do?
Yeah, I did.
Okay,
I love it.
so can't wait to talk about that. Okay,
No, no, no,
um,
not the movie. I'm just what it was doing. I appreciated everything about it. It wasn't like a great movie, but like it was for what it was. I loved it.
can't wait to talk about that. But you got Two Face
Okay. All right.
and the psychologist Ken Leung, who you know from a billion things,
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah.
um, giving the best performance of his career. And
Hmm.
the things that this show has allowed him to do over the course of three seasons, you're like, dude, I've been watching this guy for decades, waiting for him to get a shot like this. And
Hmm.
then when somebody gave it to him, he was just like, let's go. Let's fucking go. He is an absolute blast, but everybody's incredible on the show. I can't wait for
And
you to get
I'm
into
not
it.
remiss, but like the King in the North is in this show, right?
He doesn't show up for a bit, but when he does, hell of a character. And I
Okay,
will
good.
say, as a person who, as as a viewer, who was always kind of like, I get the Jon Snow character, but was kind of like, I don't know if Kit Harington, like, if he's gonna
Oh,
have a career after this. The performance he gives in season three of the show, I was truly like, dude,
you.
I did not know you had that gear to you. This is like a whole completely other side,
Oh, dude.
and I can't wait for you to just do
I
more
knew it the
shit
moment I
like
saw him in Pompeii. I knew he could do it.
you
I'm just
you have
kidding. I'm just
never
kidding.
seen him quite like this, dude.
I'm
Oh
good.
my God, I
Is
can't wait for
he
you.
is he what was the show I talked about last year? It was on Apple as well. Extractions maybe? But he's like the CEO billionaire who like could fix global warming. You probably never saw it. I talked about it last year. Is it like he's like that level of like nefarious but good? But like he knows who he is and what he's doing, no questions asked.
I don't want to tell you anything about
Okay, all right, all right, all right. Yeah, don't. I'll find out on my own.
but yes, and I want constant updates as you work your way through the seasons.
Definitely.
What a show. If you're not watching it, get on board. Industry season three, my number one favorite show of 2024. Gavin, we know it, we love it, we've talked about it briefly. Your number one show of 2024 is
Well, I'm a type of guy who will never settle. I'm just kidding. No, that's not even in this show. They don't even make any references to Dion or my main man Marty Robbins. It's fucking Fallout, man. The like I can't. It's we talked about it, but again, I showed it to Becky, who has no reference point whatsoever, and she was like, "This is fucking amazing." I'm like, "Yes, but you
it
don't
just
get any of the references that I do about like, you know." we got to go do a side quest now, or we got to do this, or the world that's being built. So if you can just be in from just like one episode, and you're like, huh, okay, and she went with it and she loved it. I mean, again, this is the power of a binge. I don't think that anybody would have cared about it if you did it week to week. The fact that you dropped
I
it all
did.
at once and we
Yeah,
got it all, I think that is the power of it in this particular format. Now, granted, it is one of the most faithful adaptations of a video game in a long time to me. It has something for everybody. People who've played it, people who haven't, we've established that. So yes,
let's not. And
I'll
again,
concede that, you could do it weekly, but I'm so glad we got it a binge.
let's
It's perfect.
let's not downplay that. It it kind of like reinvigorated my hope for like we had this wave of like, okay, they kind of figured out comic book movies. And then you're like, okay, I think they've kind of figured out a little bit of a template to just shift this over a little bit, and maybe we start getting some decent video game adaptations. And they started trying for sure, but I don't know that we ever fully got there. Your Uncharted's, your Assassin's Creed's, etc., where it was like we're taking the properties a little more like faithfully than we did, but we're still movifying them too
Yeah, you
much. We're
still
still
got
fucking with them too much.
Resident Evil Raccoon City. I mean, looks more
Exactly.
faithful than any one of
So I'm
those other
like,
movies, but
yeah. And
still kind of
I'm
shits the
kind of
bed. I
like,
get it.
okay, well, what ultimately are we doing here? And Fallout completely just like reinvigorated my hope of like, you know what? Actually, this is the avenue we should always been headed towards, which is just like, no, just make it a TV show.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's so many worlds that could be mapped onto, hey, just be faithful to the thing. Like do the thing that made it successful in the first place and let other people come to it. Like, you know, and I really hope we get more of it. Of course, right off the bat, the Yakuza series, which also came to Prime, I heard nothing about, you know.
Yeah.
It was pretty lukewarm on the reception, I think. But I also heard because it's apparently more of just a straight like crime drama, and I'm like, the Yakuza games are insane. Like
Yeah.
they're super wild and over the top. So like if you don't have
Mm-hmm.
that element, that
Right.
would be a case where I feel like you're kind of missing your opportunity here. Uh Another thing I will say, I know we're getting one, but I don't know if we talked about this at the time, but dude, obviously we have more Mortal Kombat coming, but I'm like, literally any fighting game, a 10 episode season or a 12 episode season where you have a match in every episode that leads up to a tournament style structure. We could do Tekken, we could do Street Fighter, like we could do so many. Like it's just right there.
Yeah.
But yeah, Fallout absolutely
Who
crushed it.
was
A
the
great, go ahead,
who is
sorry.
the guy that there was an announcement for casting? Yeah, Carl Urban is Johnny Cage. We didn't talk about that when that was announced.
Yeah,
I'm I'm
can't wait.
oh
Oh my
dude,
God, I can't wait.
2025, October 24th, 2025.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, but yeah, no, we talked about it. You, me, and Barum talked about it. It is just one of those like, I mean, I don't think you could do it any better than Walton Goggins as the ghoul. And the girl from I can't remember the girl's name from the one that's in was in Yellow Jackets. Her is like the player our way into the show. And just again, it's kind of weird that both of them are like people who are in these silos and like they've come out. One of them is like, you don't go outside because you don't know what's out there. The other one is like, hey man, it's fucking wild out there. Make sure you get make sure you got yourself some rad poisoning stuff and so you don't get radiation and a gun and just be careful, because shit's crazy up here, and it's like, you know, I appreciated them trying to go back and forth in time and like giving you each little bit of the character, but you could just as easily just been like, here's this person. Don't give a shit what they've been doing, where they're at. They're in the show now. They're with you. What are you going to do? It's just another part of your team moving along. What are we doing here? And I'd have been just as fine with it,
Yeah.
you know, just because of the nature of that game. And whether you played one, two, three, four,
And like,
whatever,
and
you
yeah,
get
and
it.
like we were saying, walks the perfect line of like, if you know these games, you're watching it having a great experience of like, oh, I know where this is headed, and then it's still satisfying to you. And
Mm.
if you've never touched any of these, you're like genuinely surprised by like, oh, there's all these twists and turns. And I'm like, well, yeah, that's every Fallout mission, like ever, is basically like you think it's one thing. Nope, it's actually this other thing.
To your point, like I don't know. I mean, again, I had it on the background the other night after getting done with Christmas, just because it was available. Um, it looked cool. I don't know anything about the story, but like there was a Borderlands movie that came out that was like Eli Roth was just like
So you,
universally
sorry,
panned.
sorry. Oh yeah, I was gonna say I thought you were about to be like
No,
it
no, it
was
wasn't. No, no. I mean, but I mean, like you got Kate Blanchett. I'm not joking. Like she's in the movie, and you got Jamie Lee Curtis. I don't know if it's maybe people are people wondering why Kevin Hart's in it as well. But again, I don't know the Borderlands story. It looked cool when it first came out. I don't know what game they're on now. I never played it, never got involved with it. But there wasn't enough in that the exposition that was like, well, there was this, there was this, there was that. It's like, okay, it's gonna be on in the background while I'm just doing stuff. I
hmm
got it in my ear and I'm cleaning out bottles and I'm making bottles for the next day and I'm washing stuff. It's on. I'm vaguely paying attention, but it's not anything that's grabbing me. But still, when I look up, oh, that's a fun looking special effect, and oh, those are characters I don't know their names, but they're doing
right.
something. That's cool. But again, source material. I think if it's one of those things that we're supposed to get another season of The Last of Us. You and I would know what happened in that game. Rest of the world, well, should. But mom and dad don't. Becky doesn't know. I don't
Right.
have the heart to tell her, you know. But again, is that what's going to happen? We don't know. But again, you start with something that's good. You all you got
I
to do is
mean,
just inch it along a little bit.
we've seen that teaser trailer. I think that game's what's gonna happen, you
Yeah.
know? I don't
Hmm.
think we're I think we may be extending things a little bit, but I don't think we're gonna like alter the narrative too much, and I think people are gonna be
They're
really
gonna get they're
fucking
gonna
upset.
they're gonna cut back a couple times in between episodes of like holding on and struggling, and you think it's gonna happen. You think
Dude,
it'll
okay,
pull through, but
let's
then it's gonna nip it in the bud in the last 20 minutes of the last episode of the last season, and that's gonna be it. Where do you go
okay.
from there?
Uh I don't know. Well, where I would like to go is any final thoughts or shows we want to shout out that didn't quite make the top 10 that we want to give some love to here at the end of the year.
Skeleton Crew. I'm loving it.
Okay.
It's a blast.
I've
I
kind of
told them,
I have kind of just completely
wait,
removed myself from the Star Wars universe until Andor 2. So,
dude. I mean, you may. I mean, the Acolyte. I feel like people got all upset about and did their own thing about whatever, whatever. That's fine. I love the show, thought it was great. It was a nice thing that took place in a world. It didn't have any stakes to do with any major thing, but it was nice to just live in that world of the night. I know people wanted KOTOR. They wanted Knights of the Old Republic. This is the earliest thing we have. Did people get upset about it because it was based about these twin little black girls that use the Force? I don't know if that was the upset. I hate that they
I
didn't give
think
it a
the
season
question
two.
is, did people get upset about it because it was Star Wars? Because that seems to be the just that's the default response
Yeah,
to whatever they put out, good, bad,
yeah,
or indifferent, is just like,
hmm
I'm mad about this, which is
exactly.
part of why I have actively just been like, you know what? Let me know when Tony Gilroy is writing this shit again, and then I'll come back for, like I said, I'll be back for Andor season two.
Yeah,
Other than that, maybe I'll check in with Skeleton Crew.
it's just
I do
it's
love me
one
some
that,
Jude Law, dude. I do
and
love me
he's
some Jude
dude, he's
Law.
perfect in it. It's one of these that like I like it because the age that these kids are. It's something that minus the opening of the first episode, I could show Maverick at like 4 or 5 and be like, they're gonna go on a fucking space adventure. I'm not gonna say fucking, but they're gonna go on a space adventure, buddy. Like, look, they're on their home world and now they're gone. How are they gonna get home? You
Yeah.
know? And then just the characters you meet and all this. And again, it's perfect because it's like, oh hey, the Empire's fallen. The Galactic Republic's here, but the galaxy's so big they can't be everywhere. So there's still piracy. There's still stuff going on. Here's another story. Has nothing to do with any movie you've ever seen. It's its own thing with its own stakes. And watch 7, 8, 9, 10 episodes and be happy with your little story arc. I don't know why people get upset at that. They're so stuck on like it's got to be the Jedi and the Star Wars and the Skywalkers. Like, no, dude, there's an entire world out there between the Mandalorian and Star Wars film proper and Andor and all that that you can go play in. And from what I've seen, they got the technology and the way to make it pretty relatively cheap compared to any other time in history. So why not give me 7, 8, 9, 10 episodes with a bunch of kid actors who will probably be popping off in other big things sooner or later? And I got Jude Law as well. And a couple other random, like, oh hey, I know that guy, I know that girl. Why not give that to me? I'll take it. I'll enjoy it.
I, all right, Skeleton Crew, Disney Plus, obviously. Did we talk about Terminator Zero at all?
We were going to. I watched all that. That was pretty dope.
Um, yeah, just wanted to give it a little love. That was my number 15. One of the good animes that I saw this year. And I think like if you step back from it, it's kind of the best like Terminator like
Oh yeah.
thing since Judgment Day. Like if we're like top to bottom in terms of the way it was conceived, the execution, everything, I'm like, I mean, there's parts of Dark Fate that I like. There's parts of Rise of the Machine that I like. There's parts of Salvation that I like. But I think Zero might be the best thing since T2, which is
I
wild to
noticed.
say, but I
I
think
will
it
say I
is.
noticed there was no love for Terminator Genesis, and I thank you.
I did watch Gen Genesis for the first time. I
Okay.
did finally watch it. Nah,
Speak.
nah.
So okay. Speaking of that, and a thing we both love. Why did neither of us put Cobra Kai on our list? No.
Because it ain't over.
Okay. Good. Good answer. Good answer.
Because we still got
Um.
5 more episodes coming in the new year.
Okay. All right. Oh,
And dude,
soon in the new year.
so I initially didn't realize we were getting like split up into threes. But dude, I hope I hope this theory fully pans out. Okay, I have this whole theory.
Go. Let's hear it. This is the place to discuss it.
Part okay, three parts, five
Mm-hmm.
episodes each,
Mm-hmm.
a trilogy of a finale, if you will.
Yes.
I feel like they're kind of mirroring the trilogy itself. What are we doing in season two? Well, we're going to another country, and we gotta do a
Or
new
part
fight.
two of part two of this season.
Yes, part
Yeah.
two.
Yeah.
I'm saying,
Yeah.
what are we doing? We're going to another country. We're fighting under different circumstances.
This no tournament.
We're learn exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so does that mean it really was about Terry Silver all along?
Obviously.
And the fact that they waited so late, again,
Yes.
spoilers, I'm sorry, but the fact that they like waited so late in the game, it was just long enough for me to be like, yo, dude, I guess Terry's like not in the mix anymore. Like, all right. And then
Long enough for you to miss him and hate that he would get mad about the fact that he's not there.
exactly, I was
Just
like,
long enough for you to get pissed off that he's not showing up anymore. And who does he
they
bring with him?
played it so perfectly.
Who does he bring with him? Rando dude that was fighting Daniel in the bonsai tree shop, dude. I fucking love it. It's so perfect.
Uh, dude, I was like, they can't, there's nobody left to get, right? There's nobody left to
Right.
get. They're like, no, you
We
thought we
got him.
couldn't find everybody?
We
We
got him.
found, we got it.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
Uh, that's,
Dude, and again,
that
no
was
one
just, that was so
can
satisfying. That was so great.
how can we not talk about the career arc of Wolf the Dentist Stanson,
Oh, yeah.
who gets kicked out of coaching hockey and has to find another way to just like channel all that anger? What does he do? He starts becoming the
Starts leading
head.
the Sakai Takai.
That's that guy, that guy. Yeah, dude. The minute I saw him, I was like, that's the coach from fucking Mighty
Mighty
Ducks
Ducks
too.
too. Yeah.
He's the
It just,
Iceland coach, the worst Disney villains of all time.
I mean, so here's the thing. When I finished my rewatch of Twin Peaks: The Return a couple weeks ago, I went on to Letterboxd and I was like, I could put a rating on this. They let you rate the occasional TV show. It's one of the things that happens to be listed. But I was like, you know what? No, I'm just gonna post that I rewatched it because there's some things they're just beyond a rating. And I can tell you right now, I kind of think that like collectively Cobra Kai exists on all of our list every year
Yeah,
because it's
yeah, no,
kind of
yeah.
been airing every single year. And sometimes it's been like, well, this was season one, part one, and it's been split up. Or like, didn't we get like 2 seasons in one year? where we got
Technically,
like
yeah,
one
because
in
we got
January and one
one
in
right at the end of
December.
December. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And so it's like it's been a little amorphous and like moving around or whatever. I specifically was like, nah, dude, when it wraps up, we're gonna consider it a 2025 show. We're gonna talk about it alongside Legends, which is coming next year. We're gonna do a whole thing. So
That
that's the
makes
only
sense.
reason it's not here. Otherwise, it would have been, it was another great 5 episode batch. I loved it. So uh Cobra Kai continues to be great. There's no really I nothing else I feel like I want to shout except, you know what? Old buddy Mark Duplass. I had a great time with the creep tapes. I don't know about anybody else. Uh but yeah, the creep tapes on Shutter.
Okay. Did you watch Dark Matter? We talked about Dark Matter when it came out, right?
We did.
Okay.
That's
Um,
the Jennifer Connelly, Edgar, wait,
Joel,
Edgerton.
Ed,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Excuse me.
yeah.
Yes, we discussed it, I believe.
Okay. Did you ever see have you seen the Cross series they came out with on Amazon?
I have not with Aldous Hodge, based on
Yes.
the Alex Cross books by Mr. James Patterson, I believe.
Yeah.
Are those Pattersons?
Dude,
Uh,
it's really like it's
Pretty good.
one of those, yeah. And again, I would have finished it by now, and it probably would have been on my list, but I'm sworn that I have to wait for Becky to watch it. So what can I do?
All right.
It's gonna be a thing moving forward.
Oh, excuse me. One last show I want to bring up because it is still airing right now, and this is another one that honestly, given the 5, 6 episodes I've seen so far, I was inclined to just go ahead and just slip it right up on the top 10. But I was already doing that with Dragon Ball, so I was kind of like, let's not double dip. The Agency on
Oh yeah,
Paramount.
yeah, yeah. That looks
You're
good. I need to
watching?
start. I need
Haven't
to start
started
it.
it. Just an absolute top-notch spy show. It's a American adaptation, or excuse me, British co-pro adapt English language adaptation of Le Bureau, the French show,
Oh yeah, yeah,
which
yeah,
I
yeah.
have no knowledge of, and I'm so glad I don't because apparently it's very close. So it's like if you've already seen that show, I guess you're probably not having as good a time with the agency. But if you have no awareness of that show and didn't even know either one of these existed, you have a fantastic spy thriller with Michael Fassbender, Jeffrey Wright, Catherine Watterson, Richard Gere, uh, just an absolutely stacked cast. It's great stuff. I highly recommend. That's on Paramount Plus slash Showtime. I think
That's
it's all
right.
one
Yeah.
and the same now. I
Hmm.
don't know.
Yeah,
Uh,
because there's no more Showtime app. You caught the old man? You watched all those?
I tapped out on season 2,
Okay.
and it is now canceled, by the way. So
Figures.
I that was one of the steepest fall offs I can remember for a show, personally speaking. Again, I didn't finish season 2, but I kind of was talking with mom week to week, and I was like, I don't know what we're doing here. This is actively frustrating, like down to the way it was like edited episode to episode and the way it was structured, where we spent 3 episodes building up to the same ending
Right.
in that cave just to reveal, hey, nobody actually like somebody got shot, but it's actually not a
But
big deal. Like what the I
yeah.
was just like, what are we doing here? I feel like you're just like stringing me along week to week. I got burnt out and I yeah, not gonna go
So
back.
just
Especially now
and
that it's over, definitely not
yeah.
going back.
So just weird caveat tangent. The big bad Russian in that was also a Russian in this other show. I don't know if you've seen, but you should really start it. Probably I would hard recommend your third one after Silo and Shrinking. Slow Horses. Have you ever heard anything about that
Oh,
show?
I've already started Slow Horses, yeah.
Okay, good.
The
Say
only reason I'm not watching more of Slow Horses right now is because of the agency, because I didn't
yeah,
want to have two spy thrillers going simultaneously.
yeah.
As soon as agency wraps in like 2 weeks, or 2 or 3 weeks, I'll get back to Slow
And then
Horses.
and see, I don't know if they did this when they came out, but like when I finished before I started the one, I didn't. We again, I had to watch it with her, so when we would wrap a season, they would give you what's coming up next. But they also did that. I don't know if that's something they've added in after the fact, knowing that they're going to have a new one. But we were getting, I'm like, well, they couldn't have done that for like the newest season. And that's the last one. I haven't started the one that came out this year. I backtracked and went through all of them and watched all of them because there's some that are only like 6 episodes. That like some random British TV shows do that where it's like, oh, there's like 6 episodes and that's a whole season for something.
Hmm.
But like so good. Gary Oldman, fucking no perfect in who he is. I think the way that show unfolds, everything is great. We're gonna watch that. And then did Fargo have a new season this year?
Technically, so I felt weird about Fargo because I thought and I could be wrong on the timeline.
Because
I,
we caught up on
I
that too.
think
Another thing we
I
did being home
see.
for a
I
month.
If I'm not mistaken,
We got all the way to the Chris Rock season and we haven't started that one yet.
you haven't started four yet, or you haven't
Right.
started after the Chris Rock season. I'm
We need to
confused
start
how
the
you
Chris
just said.
Rock season.
Okay, that would be season four. Season five was. See, yes, it started in November of 2023, and
Oh, okay. I couldn't tell.
it ran into January 16th of
I couldn't remember.
2024. So in the same way that I'm like, agency is going to finish up, but I'm going to retroactively consider that a
Yeah, you would have put
2024
Fargo in your
show.
yeah. You put Fargo in your last year's episode
Yeah, and
list
it's
if it
like
was. Yeah.
I would put agency on I like it's like I will adjust and add agency to this list, even though that feels weird. That's why it's so like the Emmy timeline is strange too.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not saying every show has to end by December 31st, but it is weird sometimes where you're in the middle of the season or like especially if you're like midway through, you're like, well, is it a 2023 show? Is it 2024? What is it? I don't
Yeah.
know.
Are we going like, January, December year? Are we doing a school year? What are we doing? Because like again,
Just got
crazy. We caught up on all the Roseanne, we caught up on all the Connors, and like whenever the Connors comes back in
I am
2025,
almost done with Roseanne.
yeah, it's yeah.
I think I'm in
To
it's 9 seasons, right?
it's 10.
I am not doing the revival yet.
Oh, you got to do that, dude. You got to do that. Jump right
No,
into the
I'm just
Connors.
saying when I say finish, I mean the original
Nine, yeah, it's
run.
9.
I'm
Yeah,
all okay. Okay, then I'm almost done. I'm almost
yeah.
done. Okay.
And then you get the little like I think it's not even 9, like maybe 5 episodes, and then it's the longer they begin. They've got everything up to date on Hulu between Netflix and Hulu for the Connors, and then they've said that like this year is going to be it, and they were just talking about how grateful they were that they knew they were going to get 1 year to finish everything up. It wasn't just like you're getting the act or canceled. It's like, okay, thanks for letting us one have a whole new show, but then two that we get to finish it. Like we know this isn't it how we ended it because how they ended it this year was kind of like, are they gonna come back? But I get that they ended it knowing like we're gonna come back, but
Yeah.
you could have ended it there. But yeah, I don't know, man. I set with again in a month. I did a whole lot of TV watch. I didn't think I would. It's so crazy how much you can pack in a day if you actually try.
Truly is. Like I watched the kind of last minute like, hey, gotta cram it in was Delicious in Dungeon for me, 24 episodes, and I was just like, nope, just like devoured it, pun intended there. And yeah, that was probably the
Mhm.
latest edition. Uh, Overall, like I said, great year. I had some great times.
Mhm.
Just some weird lulls for sure, where I was like, I don't really feel like there's anything there, but that's why I love TV because I always kind of have a background series going, and sometimes you just have two going instead. So yeah, let us know what you enjoyed this year. You can email us, thearkofe@gmail.com. Shout out us on Instagram at the Ark of E Network. And stay tuned in the new year. I've teased this before. There'll be a link in the show notes at some point on future episodes. But we're starting a YouTube channel to do more content for you. And there'll be something headed to that feed very soon in the new year. Uh, until next time, when we will be discussing our favorite films of 2024, I have been Noah,
And I have been Gavin.
and you've been listening to what we've been streaming in the year 2024.
And as always, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to thank you for your extreme service and any reviews you have for us or feedback, please leave at thearkofe@gmail.com, or perhaps you could go to the iTunes store, the podcast platform of your choice, and leave us a 5-star review. And we thank you for anything that you'd like to send our way. As we leave you here in 2024, we cast out into this brave new unknown world of 2025. We just like to say, keep your feet on the ground and keep reaching for the stars, pilgrim.